I'm Edward Warfield. I'm the publisher of Citybiz, and I'm honored today to interview Nate Matherson, who's the CEO of ContainIQ. Welcome, Nate.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Nate, can you provide an introduction to ContainIQ?
So ContainIQ is a Kubernetes native monitoring and tracing platform. And what that means is at ContainIQ, we help companies identify issues that happen inside their web servers so that they can fix those issues faster, avoid downtime, and ultimately help their engineering teams save time when maintaining their web applications.
And how does the ContainIQ solution sort of expedite the process that would historically took a lot of time for engineering firms to follow up on?
Yeah, I think we really saw this opportunity to build a Kubernetes native solution. We, over the last 3 or 4 years, noticed this trend of more businesses using Kubernetes and especially more businesses using Kubernetes earlier on. While there are many benefits of using Kubernetes in terms of scale and efficiency, it does also add a lot of complexity, and it makes observability harder and more time consuming. And we realized through our own experiences that engineering teams, especially engineering teams at smaller companies where there might be 5 or 50 employees, we're spending a lot of time maintaining their observability stack. And so we had this insight that we could build a solution that was out of the box ready, and that once you set it up, it didn't require any sort of ongoing maintenance. And the way we've been able to do that is for one, being focused on Kubernetes. And so it's the only thing that we do. We are just focused on building for that one user. And that allows us to deliver solutions that work for just that one particular user. But we've also taken an interesting technological approach to a lot of our features. We use a new technology called eBPF, which allows us to gather data directly from the kernel. And so really what that means for the end user is they don't have to take as much time to set up our platform. It really just works.
And I probably should have asked this question a little sooner, but can you explain to the layman what Kubernetes are?
Sure. Yeah, Kubernetes, it's an open source technology. It was invented by Google, and it was released back in 2015. And really what it is it's called a container orchestration platform. It essentially helps companies that are using containers deploy, scale, and manage those containers. And so at ContainIQ, we didn't invent Kubernetes, but over the last 5 to 6 years since it became this open source technology, initially you had the largest enterprises adopting Kubernetes as a way to more efficiently manage their web applications, because that's where they stood to save the most time and money in the beginning. But over the last few years, there's been a trend where more middle market and smaller companies have migrated to Kubernetes as well.
And who are some of your clients?
Yeah, so we're in the early days of our business. We've been working on ContainIQ for about a year now, and we've been live in market for about 4 months since July. And we're really focused on that 5 to 50% early stage technology company. So we right now have a handful of early clients that include companies like Highpacker, which is a video game platform. We have a number of clients in fintech like Mazima Go, which is a payments business, and then we have another company that's our customer called Loom, which is actually doing bank products for healthcare professionals. So we found at least an early traction in financial services, and also really any business where there's like video or significant spikes in demand to web applications at certain points in the day.
And so ContainIQ just recently raised a 2.5 million seed round. Can you tell us about that round?
Yeah, we raised our seed round in August and September. And like fundraising, it's never my favorite thing to do. I think some people really enjoy it. For me, it's not something that I really enjoy, but I knew was going to be really important for our business. And this was like the first real round of capital for the company. Of course, like Matt and I put, some money in to get the business up and running. But this was the first like outside investor round. And so we raised 2.5 million. Our lead investor is Lockheed Groom's fund. And we're thrilled to partner with him. Like his expertise in software, especially like early stage software and go to market, like we thought were really valuable. But we've also partnered with other investors like Y Combinator and Pioneer Fund and Taurus Ventures and Acti Ventures, as well as 15 plus awesome angel investors, lots of other entrepreneurs in their own right. And so the round came together kind of exactly how we hoped it would. We raised a little bit more than we were planning to, but I think this gives us like 2 to 3 years of the runway that we need to build this business, go to market, and hire. And that was the first thing that we did after having raised this round. Initially, it was just Matt and I have been working on the business for the last year or so. But since we've raised the seed round, we've actually gone out and hired 3 employees.
Today, your co-founder is Matt Leonard. Can you tell us about his role as co-founder and as CTO?
Yeah, I love Matt. I couldn't imagine working with anyone else, and we've been working together for like 8+ years now. We met in college, and he's the CTO and co-founder, and that's really always been our relationship together. Matt, he's a full stack engineer, extremely like talented, and so I really let Matt own everything in terms of like tech and product. And that's really how we've always worked together. Whereas I've been more responsible for the operational side of the business, our finances, HR, things like that. And we have a good working relationship. We knew that we wanted to start another company together. And so really towards the end of 2020, Matt and I started thinking about like what we wanted to do next. And we knew we wanted to start another business together, and we just started talking about like different ideas that we had and problems that we'd faced. And we knew that like at our last company, observability was something that we spent a lot of time thinking about, and probably wasted a lot of time. And so Matt and I started to think about like, how could we build, that next great observability platform for startups like us. And so it was actually Matt's idea to come up with ContainIQ. It was really his concept. And ContainIQ is a very technical business. Like we make software for software engineers. And so for me, like a non-engineer with very little technical background, it's been a difficult career pivot. I've learned a lot over the last year, but without Matt's help, helping me sort of like wrap my head around this opportunity and what our product does and why and how we sell it. I definitely don't think we'd be where we are. So Matt deserves most of the credit, really all of the credit so far.
And so what are the growth plans for ContainIQ?
Yeah, like I mentioned, we just hired 3 employees, and we're about to hire 1 more. So I think we'll be a team of 6 in the next few weeks. And I don't really see us going past that in terms of headcount. I think like that's the core team that we need for the next 2 years to continue to like build out new features and at the same time go to market, start to sell to more companies, grow revenues. And so over the next year, we're really trying to get to like 100 paying customers. And I think it's a big goal. I don't know if we'll get there, but at least that's the target that we're aiming for in the next 12 months.
So Nate, you're an active angel investor. Can you tell us about some of your more interesting angel investments that you're involved in?
Yeah, I love talking with other entrepreneurs, and I actually told myself like a couple of years ago that I was like never going to get into angel investing because like it's a pretty risky thing to do, and like most startups fail, and so I wasn't planning to get sucked into it, but I did, and I've been investing in other startups for about 2 years now. I've invested in 27 different companies. And as soon as like I did the first one, I like wanted to do another one. And then after you do 5, it's like, might as well do 10. And like the Powers law, like is live and well in the startup ecosystem. It really does just take like 1 or 2 or 3 kind of standout companies in like the portfolio to generate like all of the return. And so I've definitely tried to take a diversified approach to what is like a very risky thing to do. But it's been a ton of fun. And I don't take it that seriously, or at least as serious as other people do, because my full-time job is ContainIQ, and that's what I am most focused on. It's been super rewarding, and just a few companies that really stand out to me so far is like onto something. One company that I invested in a couple of years ago is called Angle Health, and they're building a new health insurance carrier, which is like a really big idea, and they have like a lot of really early traction in Utah, which has been really exciting to watch. Another company I invested in is called Fancy, and they were really working to do like a GoPuff style model in the UK. And 6 months after I invested, they were actually acquired by GoPuff. And so that was like a big early winner for me, which allowed me to just kind of like de-stress a little bit, and invest in even more startups. And so those two are two of my favorites. One more, just a final one, is a company called Carbon, and they're building like a new corporate credit card for companies in India and Asia. And I think that's a huge opportunity, and they've been really growing quick. But that's just 3. Like I said, I love talking to other entrepreneurs, and that's really why I do it.
Let's close out the interview to talk a little bit now that Lend.edu is in the rearview mirror. Can you tell us about some of the high and low points of that story?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on again. I know we did that interview together like 5 or 6 years ago, probably 5 years ago, when I was like the CEO and co-founder of Lend.edu. I think I've come a long way since then. Lend.edu certainly had come a long way since then. Matt and I mentioned earlier in this interview that this is our second company together. And so Matt and I were the co-founders of Lend.edu together. And it was a good run. We worked on that company together for like 6+ years, started it in college when we were 19. And ultimately, we ended up selling the company in January of 2020, which was right when I was like 25. So from 19 to 25, it was really all I thought about and all I worked on. And there were so many highs. I think like, so many little moments that we still talk about. And I think like the continual high was getting to work with Matt, because like he was such a great partner throughout the highs and the lows. And at any startup there are going to be highs and lows. I think we had our fair share of lows, and our fair share of highs. I would hope for less lows this time around, but I think they're inevitable to any company and any startup. And ultimately, we grew the business to a good kind of like lifestyle type company. We were profitable for like 6 years. It was clear that LendEDU was never going to become like a gigantic business. It wasn't like it wasn't $1 billion company, but it was a good company, and we were profitable and we generated revenue and we had customers and partners and employees. And I think what happened was there was like a lot of consolidation in the space. And it became very clear to us over like a 2-year, 3-year period that like consolidation was happening, and that we needed to think strategically about like what the long-term place for LendEDU could be and how we could differentiate and other things we could do, whether it be like new channels or new verticals. And as we started, having those thoughts and discussions, we realized like the best thing to do for everyone, including like us and our employees and our customers, was to sell the company. And we did that, and all the employees got to keep their jobs and got like meaningful raises. And for us and for our like early investors, it was a pretty good outcome because we never had raised a lot of money. And because that was the case, like it gave us quite a bit of flexibility when we went to sell the company. Whereas like if we had raised millions of dollars or, $10 million, like we would have had very little optionality to be able to sell the business. And so it was a pretty good outcome. I would definitely consider that a high, but also a low, because a lot of our employees became my best friends over the course of like 6 years. And many of them are still with the company. And I like wish them nothing but the best and success. And from what I can tell, it seems like the business, definitely went through some difficulties during COVID, like a lot of companies did. But now they've kind of gotten through it, and it seems like things are going quite well. So I hope that business continues to endure.
So, Nate, I want to thank you for your time today and sharing the story about ContainIQ. I wish you the best of luck on your journey as you move forward. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.